Hello everyone, welcome back to FPL STAR. Finally, FPL started to release player price. Today I gonna discuss about FPL price reveal reaction and analysis of first day of price reveal. So before starting, if you are new in this channel, please subscribe this channel for FPL content throughout the season. Now let's start. At first, I am going with Watkins and his price is 8 million, and I think he is an underpriced forward because if you look at his last season performance, he got 175 points, which is the fourth highest in forward tally. So that's why I think his price should be 8.5 or 9, and as a 8 million forward, he is underpriced. Now move on to the second forward in this list, and it's from Luton and it's Morris. He is 5.5, and as a promoted team forward who scored 20 goals, I think Morris price 5.5 is okay, and that's why it's a fair price. Now move on to the third forward, and it's Mitrovic. His price is 7.5, which got quite a good price rise, and I don't think it's a good thing for Mitrovic because he sometimes score goal and sometimes miss. So 7.5 is very high for Mitrovic, and that's why he is overpriced. Now move on to the fourth forward, and it's Andrea from Sheffield United. He is the main creative player for Sheffield United, who playing counter-attacking football, but Andrea is a very creative player and also he can score goal, and as a forward option just 5.5 is a fair price for a promoted team playmaker. Now move on to the fifth forward in this list, and it's Erling Haaland. His price is 14 million, and I think it's a fair price because if he cost less than 14 million, then everybody gonna have him, but as he's now costing 14 million, I still think that a lot of FPL managers are gonna go with Erling Haaland, but still think that it's a fair price for Erling Haaland. Now move on to the sixth forward, and it's McBurney from Sheffield United, and he's 5.5, but I think it's overpriced because he playing as a center forward, but his goal tally is not so good, and that's why it's overpriced for McBurney. Now move on to the next forward, and it's Darwin Núñez, and I think as a 7.5 forward from Liverpool is underpriced because when Liverpool is scoring goal, they score a lot of goal, and if Darwin Núñez can make his goal conversion ratio high, then he's a great option, and just 7.5 in somehow of the season he might be a great option, and that's why he's an underpriced forward. Now move on to the 8th forward in this list, and it's Ionio from Nottingham Forest, and his price is 6.5 million, but I think it's an overpriced because he's not a sure starter for Nottingham Forest. Now move on to the next forward, and it's Nkunku. He is from Chelsea. If you look at his Bundesliga state in RB Leipzig, he's a very good player, and he can score goal, and he can play as a center forward, also in the second striker position, attacking midfielder position. He's a versatile player, but one thing about negative of Nkunku is that Chelsea are not a very good team in last season, so they're struggling in the final third. They can score goals, so that's why Nkunku as a 7.5 million forward is obviously a fair price. Now move on to the last forward in the series, and it's Adebayo. He's from Luton. His price is 5 million. He was like the penalty taker from Luton, so it's a fair price for Adebayo. But if you look at the Luton attacking play, I think Morris is their main goal threat, but Adebayo is also a good option. He's a second striker for Luton, so 5 million is a fair price. Now move on to the midfield position, and first midfielder is Odegaard, and I think if you look at his stat, in last season he got 212 points as a midfielder. Is very good and is the second highest among all the midfielders, so his price should be more like 9 or 10, but it's 8.5, so he's obviously underpriced. Now move on to the second midfielder, and it's Brownhill from Burnley. A lot of FPL managers thinking that he should be 4.5. When Burnley last time was in the Premier League, he was 4.5, but now he is 5, so it's an overpriced. Now move on to the third midfielder, and it's Bruno Fernandes, and I think Bruno Fernandes is criminally underpriced because if in the last season he was 9.5 or 10, so this season his price dropped, but I don't think it's a good thing because he's also the penalty taker from Manchester United and main creative player and also the number 10 player, so that's why I think 8.5 for Bruno Fernandes is a underpriced player. Now move on to the next midfielder, and it's Kluivert, and he is from Bournemouth. Bournemouth signed him from Roma. He was in loan in Valencia last season, but in if you look at his performance in Valencia, he scored 6 goals in there. So he is the first highest scoring player in Valencia. So he is a good player. So 5 million for a Bournemouth midfielder who can play in the right wing position is obviously an underpriced player. So now move on to the next player in midfield option, and it's Mohamed Salah. He is 12.5 million this season, but last season he was 13 million, as his point tally is not as good as last season. He got 239 points this season, so that's why I think for 0.5 million price tag for Salah is okay, and it's a fair price for Mohamed Salah. Now move on to the next midfielder, and it's Gibbs White from Nottingham Forest. He's sometimes playing in the midfield, sometimes he's an out of position forward, so he might get a lot of FPL points, but I think as a midfielder 6 million is okay for a Nottingham Forest playmaker. Now move on to the next midfielder, and it's Son, and I think Son price is overpriced, because if you look at Odegaard or Bruno Fernandes, they are 8.5, where Son is 9 million, and Son didn't play very well in last season, so it's a 9 million overpriced for Son. Now move on to the next midfielder, it's McAllister. As he came from Brighton to Liverpool, he will play as a deeper role and also not the penalty taker for Liverpool. So 6 million is a fair price for McAllister. Now move on to the next midfielder, and it's Eze. In the last part of the season, he was the out and out good midfielder for Crystal Palace, and his 6.5, I think it's a fair price for a Crystal Palace midfielder. Now move on to the next midfielder, it's Mbeumo. In last season he was a forward, but this season FPL ranked categorized him as a midfielder, and he's 6.5. As Tony is now absent, Mbeumo might be the penalty taker, but he can play in the right wing, or sometimes he can play in the forward position. So 6.5 is a fair price for Mbeumo. Now move on to the next midfielder, and it's Paqueta from West Ham, and he's 6 million, and I think it's an overpriced because nobody gonna buy him as a 6 million midfielder, so he's overpriced. He got just 98 points in the last season, which is not an expected point from Paqueta. He's a very good player, but in FPL I don't think he's a good option. Now move on to the next midfielder, and it's Mitoma. His price is 6.5, and I think it's a fair price, because if you look at his last season performance, at the start of the season he was not a good player, but after the second half of the season he was a very good player, starting every match and the main scoring player for Brighton, and also a very creative player. He dribbles very well, so 6.5 is a fair price for Mitoma. Now move on to the next midfielder, and it's Johnson. In last season he was a forward, but most of the time he playing in the wing position, so this season he was categorized as a winger, and that's why he's in the midfield slot, and his price is 6 million, and I think it's an underprice because he can obviously score more points. And if you look at the Nottingham Forest other player like Gibbs White was 6 million, I think Johnson can score more points than Gibbs White, and other player is Avenue at forward, he's 6.5, so that's why I think Johnson is an underpriced player. Now move on to the next midfielder, and it's Pereira. Last season he was a 4.5 midfielder, and a lot of FPL manager buy him last season, but this season he is 5.5, and I think it's okay because if you look at his positioning, he's playing in the number 10 position for Fulham and creating a lot of chance and main creative force of the Fulham, so he should be 5.5. Now move on to the next midfielder, and it's Jawari from Burnley, and I think as Burnley playing very attacking football, so he's a left winger, and as a sure starter for Burnley, I think 5 million is underpriced for Jawari. Now move on to the defender, and first defender is Trippier. His price is 6.5, and I think it's a fair price because he played very well in the last season. He got a lot of points and is the highest scoring defender, got 198 points, and also take all the set pieces for Newcastle. So 1.5 million prices is okay for Trippier. Now move on to the second defender in this list, and it's Aurier for Nottingham Forest. He playing in the right back position for Nottingham Forest, and sometimes they play in team the back, and then Aurier become a right wing back. He can be a very interesting option in the FPL in this season, and is a 4.5 defender. I think it's okay for Aurier. Now move on to the next defender, and it's Robertson. His price decreased 0.5, and it was expected because this season he was performed underwhelmingly, and that's why his price should drop, and it's dropped 0.5 million. It's a fair price. Now move on to the next defender, and it's Bale. I think he's a 4 million most probably sure starter for Luton. So if you want to go for a 4 million defender, then I think Bale is an option. He playing in the left center back position. He doesn't possess any goal threat, but but just 4 million in the bench is a obviously a good option. Now move on to the last defender, and it's Alexander-Arnold, and in last season he was 7.5, but this season he was categorized as a 8 million defender, but I think it's overpriced, because if you look at his previous season he was scoring a lot of points, but last season his performance is not up to the mark, but still he got 0.5 million price rise and it's overpriced. But still I think Alexander-Arnold is a great option for FPL, because now he playing as an inverted right back position, which is very good for Alexander-Arnold. Now move on to the goalkeeper option, and first goalkeeper is Pickford, and he is 4.5. Everton fixture at the start of the season is obviously good, and other thing about Pickford that he makes a lot of save, so 4.5 is a fair price for Pickford. But if you want to go for another team like Man U or Tottenham, then I think he will be a bargain player. Just 4.5 million goalkeeper is a beast. So now move on to the next goalkeeper, and is Muric from Burnley. As a promoted team, goalkeeper 4.5 is okay for Muric. Now move on to the next goalkeeper, and it's Leno. Fulham in last season playing well in defensively, so 4.5 for Leno is a fair price. Now move on to the last goalkeeper. FPL release price is Josesa, and I think as a 5 million goalkeeper it's overpriced, because if you look at the 4.5 million goalkeeper, there is Leno and Pickford, so people gonna take a Leno or Pickford. Even Muric is better option than Josesa, but in last season his price was also 5 million, but this time Wolves defense was good, but now Wolves are not a very good defensive side, so 5 million is very high for Joseph, so he is overpriced. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please like this video, and if you are new in this channel, obviously subscribe this channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Good luck for your team.